everyone, my name is Julia and I'm a CELTA trainer, and this video is about CELTA pre-course interview, what to expect and how to prepare. So it all starts before the interview, and the first thing you do is your pre-interview task. There are two parts to that. Part one is just your general background information. We ask for some personal details like your phone number, your email address, where you live, things like that. We ask about your education, we ask about the languages that you speak, and we also ask if you have any prior teaching experience. This doesn't have to be teaching English, but have you ever been in a classroom? More like that. And then comes your language and methodology awareness part. So this includes your Lexis-focused tasks, so anything vocabulary. Think about your word stress, think about explaining the difference between similar words, confusing words, things like that. This also includes explaining specific grammar points, how to make a sentence, for example, and why we use that grammar in that sentence. This is also about conveying information to your students. So you get a sentence and we ask you how you would teach this in a classroom, or you get two words that students often find confusing and we're like, how would you explain the difference? So things like that. And there's also a writing task, usually something experience-based or your attitudes-based. Things like describe the best lesson that you've ever been a part of. Describe the best teacher that you've ever had and what made them so good. So stuff like that. Once you're ready with this task, you submit it to your center. Sometimes they send it back to you to resubmit. And they would specify like, oh, take another look at this section, or, ooh, could you please change your answer there? But then once they're happy with what you send them, they schedule an interview with you. And now there are different types of interviews. So your interview could be done online or face-to-face. And it could be either a one-to-one interview or you in a group of other potential trainees. Now, this doesn't really matter how you do it. You will still be doing the same things. You'll still be answering the same questions. So it's not really affecting anything at this point. You're there. It's the big day. So what happens during the actual interview? So obviously you break the ice. You introduce yourselves. You get to know each other. Your interviewer might reference your pre-interview task, ask you some questions about it. And this is where we also like to talk about your motivation to take the course. So the whole point of this is just to make sure you're comfortable, you're ready to do things, you're ready for the main chat that's about to come. Once this is done, we get to look at your pre-interview task again. And we will double check any details if something is unclear. And we'll also revisit some specific sections of the task. So if we have some more questions about the grammar section, or if we're not completely satisfied with your answers to something, we might ask you some follow-up questions there. That we move on to talk about language and methodology a bit more. This is somewhat similar to your pre-interview task, but at this point, it's now more of like a chat discussion. So again, it's based on grammar, vocabulary, common mistakes that students make. Again, you might need to explain the difference between certain points. We might ask you to make some sentences with specific grammar points. And again, making it a bit more practical. So yes, you know the difference. Yes, you know your grammar, but how would you make sure that your students understand that? What would you do to make them understand? How would you show that? How would you convey the meaning? And this is optional. Not all centers do this, but there might be another writing task or a proofreading task, just to make sure. After this section is done, after this is over, a general course overview comes. And this is where you get to learn about what you can do before the course to make sure that it's as smooth as it can be. So if during the interview it comes up that you need to brush up on your grammar a bit more, we might suggest a book We might suggest a video to watch, like whatever materials we think are suitable. We might suggest that. Also, we talk about a typical day on the course. We tell you a bit more about your teaching practice, so like the lessons you teach on the course and your written assignments, course requirements, so what you need to do to make sure you pass the course, assessment and grades. Then comes the checklist. So this is basically everything we need to mention to you during the interview to make sure that you have all the information. We then make you sign it to make sure you heard us and you know what's up. I know not all centers do it, but I personally find it to be quite a useful thing as a trainer. And then we answer any of the questions that you might have at this point. Anything about the course, the timetable, the format, anything you've got. Now, with that being said, some things you should keep in mind and remember about CELTA interviews. So first off, take your time. We're not in a rush. If you need to think about the answer, if you need to just have some quiet time, go ahead, do it. The biggest thing is that attitude is no less important than knowledge. So it's okay if you didn't answer every single question. It's okay if you hesitated. It's okay if you were not sure. The main thing is you being ready to learn, is you being ready to develop and work on yourself. That's what we're looking for in a candidate. So basically just the main question is, are you keen to learn? Then this comes personally from me. Do your homework before the interview. So again, this doesn't mean that you need to know everything about what CELTA is and blah, blah, blah. But just know a little bit, right? Because that will help you ask better questions when you have a chance, right? It will help you better understand if this course is for you or not. What potential issues you might have with it, if any. And then if you think something might be challenging, again, your interview is the perfect time to talk about it, the perfect time to ask the tutor, like, what do you think about this? How can I deal with it? And that kind of stuff. If you're nervous, and many people do get nervous, and that's totally natural. CELTA interview is something that you probably just do once in your life, and it's a very weird thing to do. So if you get nervous, just practice beforehand. Now, yes, you don't really know what we're going to ask you, but we will ask you about your motivation, right? You will get to talk about your experience. You will get to ask us questions. So that's another useful thing to practice. So just be as ready as you can be. And the last thing, the main thing, whoever is in the room with you, we are rooting for you. We want you to succeed. We want you to do well. We're there for you. So we're in the same boat, okay? We've all been there. Every single CELTA tutor has done a CELTA interview at some point in their life. They know how stressful it could be. So we understand what it's like. No reason to be afraid of us. No reason. We're not there to stress you out even more. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. That's what a CELTA interview is like. That's what happens. Some things might depend on the center, so different schools do things slightly differently, but the gist is overall the same. Yeah, I hope you guys found this video useful. I hope I was able to answer the questions that you had. If you still have any, just drop them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, see you guys around.